good evening,
Hello.
good afternoon, good morning, whichever part of the world you are joining in from. I'm Mrinal. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, Bhaskar. So good to be here with you.
Yes, and we have been working on various short, assignments as well as we bump into each other on airports. We keep talking about various topics which are passionate and close to our heart. It's been quite a journey, and after deciding that we will have a free flow conversation on this topic of burnout or boundaries, balance, and breakthrough, it's been a wonderful experience for me because I learned so much listening to your research. You have been very diligent in doing a lot of research on this topic, in addition to what your personal experiences has been. So I would like to acknowledge that and sincere gratitude to your serious effort in coming on the show as a guest and have this opportunity for me and our listeners to hear your infinite wisdom and your presence. Thank you.
Hey, Bhaskar, thank you so much for this. I think I would definitely acknowledge the interesting chats we have bumping in at the airports and having the coffee, especially the Bangalore airports,
Yes.
and all of that. And I remember you as somebody who is very vastly experienced, being a great coach and a buddy, and being a part of while we set up the ICF Mumbai chapter. You are one of the one person who guided the entire team, being a part of the ICF Global Board of Directors. So I see you as so much more experienced into all of this. And for me, it is like all the research and whatever the things I keep reading is more related to my own consumption, my own understanding of about the industry, about the corporates, and that would help me in the role that I play. So yes, to that extent, I definitely enjoy that. Thank you so much, Bhaskar.
You're welcome. And as always, you've been very humble. And there were many instances where you had a chance to appear on a guest show where I used to work earlier in my workplace, and people used to come back with amazing reviews on your facilitation. You are one of the pioneers in our country to bring facilitation into our everyday vocabulary. And I learned something new in our interaction about the etymology of the word facilitation. I would like our listeners to hear it directly from you. Please go ahead and share.
Oh, thank you so much. So I think uh, so in regards to that facilitation, I would say thanks to the organization called International Association of Facilitators, for which it inspired me to be one of the CPFs in India. And there have been few of my senior colleagues who have been inspiring people and mentors to me. So facile, the facilitation root word is facile, which means to make it easy.
Mm.
And once I got into this journey of being or becoming a facilitator, from being a trainer to a facilitative trainer, when I was at that stage, I felt like I was already a facilitator till I happened to experience what is facilitation and what is the world of facilitation. And that really excited me and inspired me personally, that I would love to get into this world of facilitation, get competent into it. And it was a kind of a personal inspiration and ambition to see if I can become more capable and competent to get those skills to be a facilitator. And the spirit and the context of that is all about how to make things easy for people. And so, one another very broad tenet that actually completely changed my life is to come from the context that each person who is either in the room or who's into training while I'm training, that each one of them have wisdom. And as a group, when we get them together as a group, there is a group wisdom that is much more even than an individual wisdom. It is even sometimes definitely much more than the addition of each individual, because something completely new can come up. And what it takes to be that facilitator was all a learning to be a CP.
Yes. Yeah. There's a term called crowdsourcing. One idea begets, hundreds of ideas. One candle lights many other. Yep. Absolutely right. So
Yeah,
today we are here to talk about burnout, and as many of the audience who are here may know, burnout is not a disease, right? And it is more of a classification of one of the workplace, um, side effects, if I can call that. World Health
indeed.
Organization recently has placed burnout in its international classification of disease in diagnostic manual. It's a ICM 11th classification, and it is not just a stress syndrome, but rather a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed, right? So they left it open. It's not just successfully managed by the individual, but also the key stakeholders around that individual. And they went ahead to talk about what would a workplace burnout look like, or what are the characteristics. Feelings of energy depletion or mental exhaustion, that's the first one. Increased mental distance from one's job or negative feeling towards one's career. And third, reduced professional productivity. So when any of these three or all of these three are present in our life, I think we are going through experiencing a burnout. So we are more incurable optimists in our life, Mrinal. And I have seen you all the time looking to reframe any situation into a positive situation, right? So and you always talked about well-being, which is on the other end of the dichotomy of burnout, right? So one incident which caught my attention while doing research, it's there on the Wikipedia as well. It's called Jetblue employee incident. Jetblue is a airline in US. In the year 2010, month of August, incident happened in that airline, which many of the frequent flyers and even people who have traveled in planes would identify. When an aeroplane lands, there will be a rush of people wanting to get up from their seats even before the carrier is taxied into the uh, tarmac. They start getting up and take the luggage from the overhead cabin and so on, and flight attendants would scream their lungs out saying, please stay seated and wear your seat belts, but no one seemed to listen. And many of them are in a rush to, as if uh, they would beat the rush and reach home faster. But that's not the case. But on this fateful day, this employee, you can look it up on Wikipedia, he lost his cool. He took the announcement device, the microphone, and then announced to the entire passenger lot sitting there, saying, I've done this for 20 years telling you guys to sit down. You don't seem to listen. That's it, I had enough. And then he takes two beer bottles and then opens the emergency chute, slides down, takes his tie off, throws it on the tarmac, and then starts walking towards the terminal. So, this incident, the reason I'm bringing it up is this is about an employee who reached his maximum threshold of overwhelming feeling that no one cares about me, including customers, co workers, clients, bosses. No one cares about my well being. I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overworked. Uh, this is a classic case of a complete burnout. And then the fallout happened and people took action. The employer had a reaction to it. You read about it on Wikipedia. But the reason I brought out this is maybe this employee acted it out really in a behavior which is not acceptable for many. But how many of us are acting it out internally, right? That's the
Yeah,
question. And what are the things that we could do to stay sane? So that's the phrase you used when we talked about getting on a YouTube session, and you said sanity. That's something you're quite interested in. So we spoke about different persona, whether it is a women at workforce, who have to double up as a homemaker at home and continue to do their job as a manager or as a efficient employee at work, which is like double duty. 12 hours
Yeah.
there and another 12 hours here, 24 hours they are on.
True.
Unlike men who have some respite, you can hang out with friends and and so on, but pandemic has tried to level that as well, right?
So true.
Then we have multi-generational workforce, different generations working together under same roof. So the demands on and expectations on each is so high, it is overwhelming, and it may lead to burnout, and in some cases it has done so. Then leaders of organizations, they also go through burnout, and survey after survey, not only in India but also even developed countries, have shown that leaders are burning out. 64% and above are showing signs of burnout in the recent survey that got released on month of December 2021.
Hmm.
And entrepreneurs, they're also going through burnout because of uncertainty and so on. Business owners, HR fraternity is trying their best to keep the entire ship together, because when a majority of your workforce goes through burnout, engagement falls. When engagement falls, customers don't feel that experience of a service or a product of a company, and then they
So
move
true.
away to another competitor. And then profitability, and it has its own cycle and effect on survival of the organization. So it's all interconnected. It's so critical topic, and we are talking about setting boundaries, finding balance, and enabling that breakthrough, so we can manage effectively this overwhelming feeling. So with that preamble, let me set the stage for you, and then please share your thoughts and the kind of topic we have been talking about and how it emerged for you. Some personal examples, if you could share with us. Thank you.
Sure. I think so beautifully, brought things together to weave it together, Bhaskar. Wonderfully done. And you indeed kind of touched upon some of the memories as you were speaking. You indeed brought in some of the people in mind as you were talking about the different category of people. So certainly some of the family members came up there. Maybe
Yeah.
some friends came up there. Some of my clients came up there. So I think also a question that I'm curious as you spoke about that is this burnout only happening in the last 2 years, or was this something, a trend that was even happening before, except that it came to a very different level now? But the
Yeah.
burnout, was it only in the last 2 years or before that? I truly believe it was even before that. Um, and I experienced, in some sense, a burnout was in a very long time since while I was in one of the job as a education coach of Western region for a particular organization, where I was kind of hired to go out of Bombay to do some kind of a training for almost just 1 week out of a month. That was a commitment that happened. And while I was into the job, it so came up that I was almost like 15, 17 days at times I was out of the Bombay city. And I had my parents at home, and then I had to, and they were aged. So in a way, I am a late child. And I always had that concern about how are they, who's taking care, because I'm the only child. So they were only two at home, and I was
Mm.
traveling.
Mm.
Now and it was like, for me, I started feeling the burnout that point in time. So I was able to see it's not about the only the work pressure that adds to the burnout. For me, the experience was the emotional kind of a burnout happened for me. More concerned about my parents, what they would need, what if there is a medical emergency, speaking to them every day. So there is like that balance of managing the work, being there, traveling. The travel had its own kind of a pressure time, and that time new places it was, or nearby places was travel by train. So a lot of uh, time went into travel, which I also feeling like, okay, that's not my personal time is getting wasted there because I'm traveling through train, etc., etc. But the burnout happened which was more of an emotional thing for me. Besides, there was a work pressure, no doubt about it. Now, as you said, I've seen sometimes in this current pandemic times, as I spoke to some of my friends about what things they are managing, especially some of the leaders who have more responsibility at work, about how they were, like working till late night.
Mm.
Especially when we talked about in the early phase, you would have realized that there were so many changes that were happening in terms of a kind of a directives from the government, from the authorities, and how those directives has to be implemented at the workforce, bringing things together. There were so many cases happening. People were getting kind of seriously ill, getting admitted. And there was no, at that point in time, as you know, that there was no kind of a medicine that was like, we know for sure what is going to be the treatment part. And people were really losing their lives.
Mm.
Uh, and there were some of my friends or some of my clients who have stated and shared that while we wanted some of their organizations had to keep going because they were like essential services category, the workers had say that they don't want to come, they don't want to risk lives, and to get those people to get kind of a enroll to come to the organization or to the plants or to their offices. Some of the leaders, they said, I took the first step to be there, called them saying that I am going to stay there. One of my client, he stayed for 3 days at a plant site without going home. And he said, I had to do that because I had to show them that if I could do it, I am there to take care of it. And only because I showed them that I stayed the very first night, the next day, many more workers started coming in because they heard about me. This was completely unheard. But the thing is, it did had a huge impact on the burnout for that leader, in terms of that he losing a lot of weight. There was always that risk of being outside and the COVID is all over there. What if he catches that? What happens to the family? And so many different things to be put in place, right from the HR, right from the quality people, right from the security people. Means when I hear certain stories, I feel like people have really, outgrown their capability, and they have outgrown their capacity. They completely experience a very different threshold of what they could do. That's the positive thing. But the thing is, it really came up as something that what they are doing, that was purely for the business part, was the commitment coming in. But in regards to their own risking the life, it doesn't really augur very well if you have to see from their family's perspective. The families were too concerned. The family was saying, please do not go. So this was something, a burnout that happened for people. Again, it is a emotional burnout. It's a burnout for the kind of a sheer physical kind of a, you can say, sustenance for them. Staying for 3 nights in the plant, not going home, taking care everything. Extremely difficult. So I think the burnout happened for these people. And when I only imagine and heard some stories about so many other people, if you talk about the medical fraternity, the front line, the police staff, and all those people who were there, while they were doing their work in the pandemic, while some of us could stay back at home, I feel I can't even imagine what burnout they went through. I really can't imagine. And especially those who are running the essential services. So many essential services were still on. We were still getting our milk, our newspaper. I salute the spirit of human beings that we do carry. But that's what I would say about the burnouts. But if I have to talk about the trend before the pandemic, well, the burnout was towards a very different kind of a scenarios, in different scenarios, that if you have to really see. So I would say burnout has been happening, and it's like people are becoming aware, and hopefully they take care that if burnout is happening, it's not only the environment or the situation responsible, but they making the choice to bear that. And somewhere that is their contribution to the burnout in their life. So not everything can be pointed out to the outside thing that because of that I'm burning out, but there has to be a responsibility being taken to whatever the extent that you are making that choice also. I would say that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we need to give ourselves permission to feel, permission to take breaks appropriate time. uh, I think education sector, as you rightly said, including medical professionals, education sector, even for-profit, non-profit organizations, all of them have experienced this overwhelmed situation, right? The things are going out of control. And for example,
Absolutely.
leaders, especially, we are in the space of leadership coaching, and leaders especially, they feel their hands are tied behind and they are asked to swim faster than ever before, uh, which is very very difficult situation. I have only 50% of my staff, and I have to keep the show running without any drop in customer service or value I'm providing as a leader in the organization. It's not an easy job. So
Absolutely.
while we talk about the fingers need not only point outward but also inward, uh, many people I have interviewed have taken an option of paid time off, right? So leaders may not be aware that when I'm working from home, right, uh, it doesn't mean that I don't need PTO. Oh, you're anyway home, right? Why do you need leave? And some have a misconception saying, even if I take a PTO, I end up working. Why take leave? So these kind of situations, I think one need to take charge. Flexibility is the main uh, weapon or main instrument a leader has got in his or her hand to provide to their team so that they don't feel overwhelmed or overworked, and then going to the other end of burnout. And second, they need to apply that on themselves as well. How do I take off whenever it is required, rather than going to the other end of the extreme? Second thing is about having that vacation of the year. Many a times when an email comes from HR saying, hey, your leaves will expire, that's when the vacation mindset comes in. Till then the vacation mindset does not come in. So we have to plan our vacation ahead of time, have the discussion with your friends and family, uh, and make sure that you are uh, truly away from your digital devices so that you can enjoy the time off with your near and dear one. I know 5 or 6 friends from the HR fraternity. All of them are HR heads. They have gone on a bike trip from their respective homes to Leh Ladakh, and then they have returned. I'm going to have them on the show in a couple of weeks to talk about how did they handle this kind of vacation while things are happening and crumbling around them,
Wow.
and how did that help them be resilient. So
Wow.
that's the story coming up in the next 2 weeks. So people who
Very
are new
interesting.
to this channel,
Very
please do
interesting.
stay tuned, and I'll come back with more information. These are all HR heads. That makes it even more important for us to talk about how to handle burnout in this current situation. And you're right, Mrinal. Burnout has been there. We had these chai conversations or tea conversations, tea, coffee, or snacks. We take small breaks during the day, um, and we used to have venting sessions with our friends, smoke breaks. So those things would
True.
really get the burnout rates down. But now it's not possible, right? In a virtual environment, I don't know who is my friend and who is my ally, right?
Mm,
um, uh, Many people are shifting jobs during pandemic, not even seeing their teams or leaders
true.
face to face, and they have to work in a environment where they need to trust each other. So all these are the reasons for anxiety. Once we know, how do we handle and how do we navigate this? A, have open conversation, be vulnerable, be transparent in your expectations with your colleagues, and also share what's happening in your head. Hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't know whether I can deliver by the timeline that set for this. I need a helping hand. There's no shame in asking for help.
True.
These small steps would go a long way in finding that balance, and also having that boundary, right? We were talking about creating boundaries, whether it is a leader or a team member. Typically leader has got more power to set these boundaries and respect them, especially as a social agreement. I know in my previous organization in a telecom company, where the CEO would turn off all the lights by 8 o'clock and say no one should be in office, and the security guard would be given that ultimate permission to lock. If you're inside, you will be locked, and you you can come out only the next day morning. So people used to feel scared. This is pre
Hmm.
pandemic. I'm saying now there are organizations which are saying, why are you sending email after 9 p.m. in the evening? What is the need for you to send that email? Why can't it wait for the next day morning? So these boundaries, whether being online, if you are on a meeting, why are you doing multitasking? It will only overwhelm. Do not
True.
switch windows and then do. I have done that many a times. I know how hard it is, and I'm consciously being mindful of not doing that. One window at a time, one day at a time. That has been my philosophy after pandemic. Earlier, it was getting more done in less time. That used to give me high. Now I realize it's not the case. I'm just
Hmm.
only switching from one window to another, not giving attention to any of these windows, my full 100%,
Hmm.
the whole being. So that's the boundary part. And the balance
True.
part is take vacation, take break at appropriate time. When you are with your family and friends, just be there with them, so that you switch off the other thinking about email that you have to send, a report that you have to finish, and so on. And the breakthrough part, I think we will talk more about the breakthrough as we go forward. I found a lot of research on how organization as a system can support employee finding that well-being while being high performing in their task, a chosen field. So
Hmm.
yeah, and now it's a good time for us to talk about future of work, Mrinal. How future of work is shaping, and how this is going to put demands on our people, and where it is leading now.
Hmm. So beautiful, Bhaskar. Whatever you shared makes sense. Just to add before we get into the future of work, I think for me the boundary, one of my earlier organization while I was in the media field, um, my boss, when we met for the first time, the boundary he set at that time before the pre-pandemic, of course, was very clearly that in the media, usually it's 5 days a week that we work. And in the very first meeting with all the team members, he said, I want to make clear that you can be as productive as you want in the 5 days of the week, Monday to Friday, but I wouldn't like any one of you to come on a Saturday or a Sunday saying or showing that you have work, because he was so clear, he was so blunt. He said, usually I know people want to impress me, but it would have an adverse effect if any one of you would do that. Now imagine, there are some leaders who
Awesome.
are who are so straight, who are so much aware about what happens really, what are people trying to do behind what they're trying to show.
Yeah.
He was very upfront about it, and I think that's how we set the boundary for us. And we never came on a weekend to the office.
That
And
reminds me, if boss's cabin is closer to the exit, you will find many people in office in the same floor working till the boss leaves,
yeah,
because
true.
they don't want boss to see that I'm leaving before you. Right? If
Hmm.
boss is working, I have to stay late.
Hmm.
Right? They will keep on looking at the cabin to see whether the boss is leaving or not.
So
I
true.
think those days are gone. We have come really far ahead in our understanding of command and control. I think
Hmm.
that's where the multiple generations working together in a workplace, we understand the demands on organization by employee. We understand the diversity in their demands. uh, a person who is born after 1995 would have a very different expectation on the organization. And it's not like the command and control. It's more participative, it's more facilitative. The
True.
leaders no more can say that you have to finish this and then go home. They can only say, hey, we agreed that we will complete this. what is that I can do to support you. So the style is also changing. Yeah, absolutely.
So true. Thanks for sharing that. And you talked about the balance, and there's a metaphor that struck that I wanted to share. So you might have heard it from some of the people who are extremely prudent in terms of managing their finance, or who really have a kind of a formula that really makes them always more wealthier, is the formula that whatever you earn, we have majority of the human beings, including me, who was the same category, that whatever the income is, we keep on spending what we need to spend on, and then we save what is the balance.
Yeah.
And the one who are the prudent, who are the real wealth creators, they say you got it all wrong. You got it the opposite way. Whatever the income, you first decide how much you want to save. Take that portion from your income, put it in that saving. So that money is no more in your hands. And now deal with whatever you have, manage your expenses. And voila, what happens? We somehow are able to manage from that money and take care of our needs, whatever is in the balance. So here we are essentially talking about maybe that discipline, if that is
Mm,
what we are talking about. But it is also about, if you have to create a balance, that metaphor that I want to use here from this example is, if you want to take care of your well-being, it's like we are doing the same thing. We put our entire time, if time is fixed for us, we put that time to take care of our work. And after the work is finished, whatever is remaining, we say, okay, that goes into my well-being part, or that is the time I want to give it to myself. If people, those who are very conscious and want to take charge and really want to be a wealth creators about your well-being, then whatever the time that you have, allocate the time that you want to give yourself. It doesn't matter how much time that could be, whether you want to give 10 minutes for that meditation, or whether you want to give it half an hour, or whether you want to give 1 hour for that walk and exercise and all put together, whatever that time is for you. And as you said, taking that periodic breaks, give that time to yourself first, and then whatever the remaining time is goes for your work. And also it's good to see that phrase when we say, health is wealth. It can't be so much true, in the current times. I really start seeing that, so much is true of that the health is wealth. And we see there are people, and we probably all know the stories about how people have, probably have passed away by working at their office, being too stressed, being there working for so many hours at a continuous stretch, and suddenly at one day they're no more there. So the thing is, we have to really be conscious about taking that call for us. And each one has a different capacity for us to understand that how much of it I can do, how much of it I have the resilience to really put it to work, do continuous work. Maybe I'm doing it for, 16 hours, 18 hours. And there are people who will say I'm doing 20 hours, maybe in the current times. Some are regulars about that. I really feel like, how do they really take care of the health? Because if they really start taking and going there doing a periodic health test, their health might be deteriorating at such a fast pace, or they might be having some chronic disease or illness, or having that common, blood pressure, diabetes, the kind of medication that they take. I really wonder, if all that is there, is the focus or the priority set right for the people? Or is it only after we only have to point out outside that I am not in charge, my
true,
work, my work
true.
pressure, my responsibility, what I have to do all that. But the thing is, they don't see that who is taking that shots. We have already got into it. Just be aware, that if you have got onto it, you are the only person who can get off it.
Yeah, true. This proverbial treadmill, or
That's right.
hedonistic treadmill, as they say, or right, the hamster wheel. So,
That's right.
Fannin is someone who I came across during my research. He came out with a very good acronym to beat burnout. Actually, he devised this method to inculcate champion mindset. Right, through this method, over 30 years, he has been able to support more than 1 lakh people to be good at what they are good at, in terms of baseball, American football, tennis, badminton, golf, you name any sport. They have used his method to move towards a champion mindset. And so many youngsters who are entering the workforce, they have learned this simple technique, and which is, I'm going to show it on the screen right now. It's simplified as SCORE, right? S stands for self discipline, C concentration, optimism, relaxation, and enjoyment. So, what he's saying is, once you have decided this is my goal, and create that set of rules for yourself to stay focused. And when you're clear about your direction, have blinders like a horse in a race, and have that concentration towards what you're doing. And there is a hope for every champion that things will work out. It's not that every time I can wing it and control the outcome. There are things beyond my control. So optimism, always talking positive sentences, ensuring there is a good amount of optimism in my speech, the way I speak in front of people, no matter who is watching or observing. I would always use positive sentences. Then the relaxation, after your preparation is done, after you know that you have done your best to prepare for the event, just relax during the event. Do not worry too much about the outcome. You have done your best, you're there, and you're going to perform to the best of your abilities, and enjoy the process. So this is a simple formula.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think we all can pick it up from this formula and use it for our own life also, wherever we want to
Yeah,
use that.
I found this very useful when somebody is feeling overwhelmed. This is a simple score. There is a assessment also available online for this, and people can benefit by ticking boxes on where they are and how they would like to move forward. A good executive coach or a leadership coach, when you engage, they can help you with what are the different strategies that you can adopt to ensure your score stays high all the time.
So true. So true. And also to um just to say about some of the things that really make us perform better. Actually, it is only through, if you are relaxed within, as they say, you are able to get the best. We
You'll be in
say
the
that,
zone, that performing zone, right? Mihail Csikszentmihalyi talked about flow.
yeah,
So when we
yeah,
are in a flow, there is no question of being burnt out, right?
true, true, yeah. And I think since you picked up that word flow, I think it's sometimes very, very important to reflect on what gets me into the flow. And usually, uh, flow is also always, or most of the times, associated with that you are into the work that you enjoy doing. That's usually the case. And it also is something that brings out your best. So there are, even in our all the jobs, whatever we do, all the roles that we play, if it is something that I would like to make a note of is, if we have chosen a career which is inherently inclined and kind of adapted, or goes hand in hand with our what our natural talents are, I think it really leads to more of the times that we experience flow in the way we take it forward. And one interesting thing is, I like the multiple natures theory by Dr. Howard Gardner, what he has talked about. One of my friend, he has also created a multiple natures test that came to my mind right now, is where
Hmm.
an assessment can be taken for them to each one of us to understand that, if, for example, out of, we each have those 8 multiple intelligences as per Dr. Howard Gardner theory. So intelligences are like musical intelligence, spatial intelligence, interpersonal, intrapersonal intelligence, those kind of intelligences, a visual intelligence. So it gives a very fair inclination about what are the natural intelligence that have, and our flow would happen if we are in attune to that. So it would be wise to share this over the platform for people who are not aware, to see if you are able to find and make take an assessment to tell you which are your natural intelligence and what kind of a career that it would suit you. And it would certainly would be very helpful for people who are about to start their career, but it doesn't stop from people who are maybe in few years or few decades in your career to take that test, just to know, what is your natural inclination of talent and where would you really be in a flow. And imagine being in work every day where you experience flow at least once, twice, kind of average time. What kind of a satisfaction and what kind of a quality of work that we will produce. And I think that's one thing that created balance, I would say, in my life, Bhaskar, is taking that choice at one point in time in my life, that what's the purpose of my life, answering that question, which led me to the training and development part. And then
Mm.
from the journey of the training and development, it was all about working on human potential.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my own potential and an opportunity to work on others' potential, to share, to make a difference, uh, you know, make a difference to your own life, make a difference to others' life. If that happens, if you're able to kind of touch other people's life, nothing like it. And that's where I found the balance. And when that balance came in my life, even if to the extent that there is a kind of a situation like a burnout, it's not really that kind of a burnout that takes a toll, in a big way on either a health, etc. Maybe on time it does. But if you are in that kind of a space, I think it helps you from a burnout. It helps you create balance. And obviously, with whatever you achieve, it often creates breakthroughs
True.
in terms of what you're able to achieve, what you're able to get, which becomes fulfilling. It could be financial rewards, it could be relationship rewards, it could be lifestyle rewards. So I think that becomes very important to really tune in. And to the
Priya's got a
question.
question.
Oh, okay.
There's a question from Priya.
Hmm.
Please share more information about multiple intelligence test.
Okay, so multiple natures test, if you, I think, search multiple natures, you would get to that website. And so the person who created that, Mrs. Stephen Rudolph, I think he's also a good friend. We do sometimes have a chat, Bhaskar, just like that. We do have sometimes in between, Stephen and me. We also connect in between and have some hearty chats, and we talk about things which are very close to our heart, what we see around in the world, and that becomes very interesting to talk. So that's the multiple natures. If you just type in Priya, you would get that. And if you want to read the
I
multiple
found
intelligence,
this link, Mrinal. This is
that's
the one,
right.
right? Yeah.
Correct. Multiplenatures.com. And they have a interesting assessment also one can take. So I am actually, Bhaskar, just to share on a personal side, but here I am not personal, but what happened, what transpired last time is that me and Steven were talking about, and we said about how about we making this known to some of the people in the coaching fraternity about the
Mm.
test, etc. So that is being kind of a planned in February.
Oh,
Nothing
nice.
finalized, but would share with you for sure, and maybe with
Sure.
some of my coaching friends and my fraternity there.
We should get him on this show and interact with our
Sure.
audience.
Oh,
Yes.
sure, certainly. He would love it. He's
And
a
there's one more
storyteller.
question from Priya, Mrinal.
Huh.
There's a comment, I should say. I believe even today, the burnout for most of us, especially women, is an emotional burnout out
Hmm.
of guilt or feeling of inadequacy while balancing work and home. Yes,
So
absolutely.
true. So true. Yeah.
And I think the days of stereotyping is gone. I have heard many men as well talk about this in the last 2 years. So I think it's about what Mrinal you shared earlier, how the individual is able to manage this, right? It's a skill. It's not something to do with uh, issues which are beyond our control, right? So the story of this monkey trying to get the peanuts out of a jar which is having narrow mouth,
Hmm.
right? So this is typically how monkeys are captured, as the legend goes. If a uh, monkey catcher wants to catch monkey, very simple, narrow mouth vessel, put lots of peanuts, tasty fresh peanuts, and then bury it under the ground. When a monkey tries to get a handful and then tries to take a hand out of the vessel, it won't come out.
Mm.
And the monkey would be in so much of misery. Oh my god, I have to let go of all these peanuts to take my hand out and then set myself free. uh, its own thinking is getting the monkey get stuck, right? So the trap is a metaphorical trap for all of us.
So beautifully said. Absolutely.
We
So
have to
true.
let go of certain things to be free. We don't let go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some of the traps are our stories that we carry,
Yeah,
that if I don't have this job, then I can't. This is my
yeah.
survival depends on it. That belief. Maybe we don't even think that that could be an assumption.
So
And
this
another.
is, yeah,
Hmm.
sorry. There is one other point about feeling good, right? There is a
Hmm.
book by this name by Dr. David Burns. He is a foremost authority on this area. He came out with a sequel, Feeling Great. There, he talks about 10
Hmm.
cognitive distortions, right? One of them is all or nothing. Whether I succeed in this project or not, if I'm a failure, then everything will crumble, I will lose my job. This catastrophization is a cognitive distortion.
Hmm.
Once we realize that the facts are against it, it's not a end of the world.
True.
Things will go forward, life will move on. I would find some other opportunity, some other project where I can excel well. It's not as bad as it I'm making out to be, right?
Absolutely.
So this cognitive distortion is what Dr. David Burns talks about. When you Google, you will get a simple checklist of 10 cognitive distortions we normally do. Other one is maximization and minimization. Like a set of binoculars, we either zoom in to a issue and maximize it to be larger than what it should be, or we zoom out and try to trivialize a issue which we need to attend to, but it will catch up with us later on. So
Very
like
true.
this, each of these are simple techniques which we could adopt at our end to find our balance and then necessary breakthrough in our life.
Absolutely. So well said. I think one of the things I would like to share here on this platform, what helps me find balance is doing my Isha Yoga pranayam every day
Yeah, yeah,
and my regular meditation that happens. I think that is such a fantastic. It's a source. It is the stotra or strot, which is a source, I would say.
yeah.
And so I'm very grateful that that happened for me. Isha Yoga happened for me. So, and as I reflect, just a comment is that some of the best things that I am able to see that happened to me are not something that I did to me. It
Yeah.
happened. That's the only thing I can say. And I think probably if we reflect on our own lives, I think we will realize that when I say that some of the best things happened to me, means I was not the one who caused it.
Mm,
Life was causing it for me.
true.
And if we are able to see that, then what could probably stop us in actually trusting life more, that it will bring opportunities to me that I truly deserve or what I truly intend to happen in my life. Life is the one who can bring it. Life is life has its own intelligence that things happen. I truly believe that because I can see that, whether it is meeting maybe Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev, when somebody called me, I had no idea. I had no idea who Eckhart Tolle is, and one of my friend, a very old dear friend, he called me and said, why don't you come, you will like him. So I was fortunate to see Eckhart Tolle live when he had come at Yashwantrao Savan Auditorium in Mumbai. I had no idea, but I saw him, and then I happened to read his books, etc. uh, any of the big things, if you say, Bhaskar, happened to me. And it's something like so many things. Like if I have to talk about happening, IF happened to me, or because of somebody asking, giving an invite, and happened to know, and then something, my life got touched. Kind of things like that.
Absolutely. And we
Uh,
come across many such tools, right? Some friends introduce us to some, we get references on books and websites. So there
Yeah.
is one interesting tool I found, is from University of California, Santa
Mm,
Barbara.
mm,
So this is the URL, wellness.ucsb.edu/challenges. I found this approach really nice because they are concerned about well-being of their students, which is very evident from the website. And they have put in all evidence-based research on various aspects that one need to focus in terms of wellness, and that would obviously avoid us getting burnt out. Students are far more stressed in their academic life about grades and many other things, right? So I found this site having enough number of tips, techniques, without being preachy, in the form of a gamified manner, right? It's a challenge. I just have to maintain a journal. I need to complete a task every day. I need to ensure that I'm consistent over, say, 7 days or 30 days. And they also have a reward at the end of it for the students, in the form of a coupon, right? Amazon vouchers and so on. So I found this really nice, and all of us can benefit, whether you're a student or not. These are simple hacks that we could set for ourselves. Simple challenge. There's a habit tracker, right?
mm.
uh,
Interesting.
my father had a brain stroke last December, the previous December, and I'm
Oh.
trying to help him regain his self back, because he lost a lot of his memory in the
Mm,
process, and we are trying to get him back on feet and walk and so on. So this habit tracker, I have it on the board, where he can see. So
mm,
simple task, right? Like exercise in the morning 3 times a day, right? Or ensuring that he gets walking 5,000 steps within the limited area that he can walk under
mm,
supervision,
mm,
and ensuring that he drinks enough cups of water. So all of these are like clickable ticker,
mm,
chalk piece, and I put a tick there. It
mm.
gives so much of energy and progress, sense of progress
Yeah.
for him.
Mm,
Real life example I can share. Burnout is manageable once we take things in our hands. Use some of these tools, some of these techniques, have a habit tracker. When you see yourself progressing, evidence based, your cognitive distortion would not happen. So this is
sure.
from my own experience, I can share this.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all that. Hmm. I think
And
that website
yeah,
would be definitely worth looking at. What you shared, I think, sounds indeed very, very interesting.
yes. And also, Minal, you spoke about future of work, and we had a
Yeah.
discussion on that. Let's quickly
Yeah,
run
sure.
based
So,
on your research. What are the top
yeah, I
five
think
trends?
Yeah, I think so based on my research, I think there's so many different things, and what my caught my attention, which would like to just share a few things, is one of the future trends, or the biggest, as per one of the researcher, he speaks about the hybrid working. So there are some organizations where everybody is at office. Some of us entire people are either working virtually, and the third combination is hybrid, where some people are there at the office, some people are at virtual. So that is one of the trends. And because of the virtual, there was also one research that showed that more than 90% of managers and employees both, they showed that they really were happy working remotely because of the kind of a time that they got saved for them, and they like that freedom also. And seems to be this is going to be a future trend. It's not going to get reversed. So hybrid working is going to stay for sure. And there was also a research about done by KPMG, where in their research around 69% of the organization, which were large organizations, said that going forward they would be certainly utilizing less space for their office. So
Ah,
that
okay.
is definitely going to support that trend. The second is about artificial intelligence and how much the role artificial intelligence is going to play with the augmented workforce. And there are so many kind of artificial intelligence kind of enabled either devices or kind of products that are already come out, which are replacing human beings, especially some of the repetitive work is being replaced by AI. Some of the creative, imaginative work is would be focused for more of the human beings, for the employees to really focus on. So that seems to be one of the trend, that artificial intelligence is going to play more significant role as we going forward in almost all areas. It's already like in medical kind of a industry, whether it's retail. I think everywhere. I think it's definitely playing its role in a very big way. Uh, Another thing is like staffing for resilience, and that's one trend where it is all about that while we are going to take care of employees being engaged in their one way, but that resilience in terms of taking care of not only the physical part but taking care of their mental and emotional well-being, which takes care of the resilience, is going to be a part of the future. Taking care of the safety of the employees, it's going to be at a very high kind of a very high, you can say, as a priority for the organizations. And staffing for the resilience is all about being taking care that as much they are engaged, as much they are happy and satisfied, but focusing on that their health, their well-being is being sustained, is being taken care, is going to be one of the trends which was not maybe so
Absolutely.
much earlier. That's
I
going
think
to
more.
happen. It's coming up.
You're right. Actually, many organizations where I'm talking to about what they are doing for the employee well-being, they have engaged a online counseling service provider where
Mm.
the service is completely confidential. Any employee can talk to a counselor in the given helpline, and they can talk about what's bothering them, what is stressing them, and so on. So this is prevalent nowadays, and I
Yeah,
think it's going to stay as well. Yeah.
yeah. I think one more trend that's going to come up, it's already have started, is like less focus on the roles and more focus on the skills.
Mm.
And looking at the kind of the drastic changes that's happening and the complex problems we are facing, organizations are no more going to really start defining more of the roles, because things are changing so fast that whatever the role you define, maybe tomorrow that role is no more needed. Something new challenges come up,
Yeah.
and it has to be tackled by maybe not the same person who was doing the role yesterday. And hence the organizations are becoming, this is maybe could be considered as a part of being agile, becoming agile, more agile, I would say, is organizations are going to start hiring, looking at more focusing on the skills, the skill sets, and the teams that are required to manage certain kind of a work or a responsibility or a situations are going to be a different combination of employees being pulled together, who are not necessarily playing a kind of a role, but looking at what are the skill sets that would be needed to really take care of this new situation. And just people are going to be pulled basis the skill sets, put onto that project or put onto that particular kind of a work. Once it gets completed, get disbanded and work like that maybe for another situation, which we are essentially, we know about and talking about, like horizontal organizations. That's going to happen for sure. That's another trend that uh, it's been talked about. And well one of the last trend that I researched and I heard about it, got to know about it, is there's going to be a employee monitoring, and the analytics is going to play a role. And more so this is going to come is, as you rightly said earlier, there was maybe the office of the leader used to be right there in front of maybe a door there.
Yeah.
Essentially, like the boss or the leader is supervising, is monitoring what's happening, and he used to get to know about that. But the challenge has become so many fold more when he is not able to see his employees, what are they doing.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
challenge is so much more when the kind of percentage of workforce that is working from home is so large now. If some organizations are going 100% virtual, now how do you really measure or control or see, monitor what's happening? So one
Mm.
trend is about the monitoring, the analytics could be playing a big role. And there would be some softwares, etc. Some of the organizations are already into it, like Slack. So they would be more so not trying to really intrude into the individual freedom, but more to get a big picture sense about how productively are we managing our workforce. From
This
that
is a
perspective,
very
these analytics is going to play a big role.
is a
And
very tricky
also,
area, right?
yes, and I think we were speaking one also that the
Yeah,
trend is that these days it's not going to be in future in the coming. The trend is people are going to be measured or appraised by the outcomes that they achieve, and not by
yeah.
the not given by what are the goals that they achieve. They're not going to be monitored in regards to the time, that how much time they spend today, but did they achieve the outcome that they set to achieve by today. And as we were discussing, I think what is going to play an important role is the skill set of the leader and how competent he is in estimating that whether
Yeah,
the outcome is realistic or it's completely unrealistic. So that's going to play a different role where the leaders have to again pick up that skill as well to set
leaders'
the
estimation
outcomes.
skills will be under test right now.
Indeed,
The
indeed.
gone are the days where everyone in the organization hierarchy keeps a buffer and then gives a bloated target to layer below. Those
True.
days would be gone, I think. We would
So true.
have realistic target setting, estimation skills. Those are going to be very important. Talking about skills, you're also talking sharing your views on what kind of skills would be required in future.
Yeah, I think you have that slide, Bhaskar, which talks about the
Wings.
the wings.
Yes, there you go. I'll
So
bring it
this is a
up.
very interesting thing that I came across. Sure, sure, do bring it up. So this person, his name is Walter van der Velde. So he tried to look at the kind of a work and industry, natural growth skill that would be coming in. So these are essentially, you might not be able to say as a very hard skills, which would be very specific to the role or very specific to what they are doing. He looked at kind of the soft skills, but he looked at it from a different perspective. So his concept, which I found interesting, is that he said just like all the colors can be made out of just three primary colors, the red, green, and the blue. And from these three primary colors, you can create any other color. So he tried to bring down most of the soft skills which are more like the primary colors. So he listed down which could be the skills which are more like a primary skills. And using these primary skills, whatever the other skills are required, could be a combination of this. And that's what I really found it very fascinating. And he talks about these five skills. One is creativity, and so creativity is all about thinking outside the box, and you know really having a different perspectives, changing our frames of mind and things like those. So I think he got into that part. Then second thing is talks about the critical thinking skills. And the critical thinking skill is obviously all about being analytical, being able to really think through, being able to kind of create some strategies, etc. And critical thinking is not something opposite of creativity, he says. It's more like the yin and the yang, how they can actually support one another. When he speaks about the self management, he's talking about uh, how can the person find himself or herself, finding one's flow. I'm just going through it very quickly, and being able to know himself or herself very well, and that kind of a skill is going to be very important.
Yeah,
Social intelligence,
self-regulation. uh,
self-regulation, yeah,
yeah,
indeed.
mental
So
mental well-being. Yeah,
mental well-being and all those aspects to take care of himself. The social intelligence skills is talking about more of the communication part, the collaboration kind of skills, the ability to really hear one another, ability to give feedback, and those kind of skills is going to be there. And then
empathy.
empathy as well, indeed.
Yeah,
And then he's talking about attention management. And attention management, in some way, it connects with the time management skills, but it is, as they say, some concept where you can't really manage time. So you have to actually break down that and give focus to and give attention to the some components of it, so that your time actually get managed very well. And this is going to be very important in terms of going forward, as we are going to take care more consciously about how we use our time. and how can we really spend very focused attention. And you talked about it earlier, that how multitasking might not necessarily lead to the most productive outcomes. So this attention management speaks on those lines. So he has
There's a question on that line, Mrinal.
ah,
It's from Prasanna. He's
ah,
asking, how can one establish boundaries at work, especially without being perceived as inflexible?
okay, quite interesting. So establishing boundaries at work without being perceived as inflexible, I think one could be, the way I see it, I would just respond from there, and Bhaskar, feel free. One is it about what is the kind of a, a conversations and the communication and the relationship. How do I build all that with my boss on right from the beginning? How I have worked that around, where
Yeah,
my boss is aware about, what do I experience, that this is what my work entails, this is my responsibility, this aspect is where I'm going beyond my committed time. But going beyond that time is something that I'm not kind of a willing. That's my personal, absolutely my personal space. This is a
yeah,
time for my well-being, this is a time for the well-being of my parents, this is a well-being for my family members, this is something I have to take care of my parents. So whatever that is, I think it has to be kind of established in the relationship. And usually wherever there is a very warm relationship and a common understanding, I have found, whenever I was in the working lifetime, I never had that kind of a challenge, because the leader did understand. And there are times that we stretch it even beyond that limit on a on and off basis, but not to allow it to become like a taking for granted. So
true,
that's the
true.
fine line where we have to be very conscious, we have to be very assertive, and we have to be very upfront. So some people who are not assertive, and whatever is given, you simply do it, and they don't feel that you are resisting, then they feel you're okay with that. So sometimes it's like a miscommunication or misunderstanding that exists, which needs to be communicated. So I would say, if you are able to bring that part, and they understand you, what your needs are, and what are your, you stand for your own kind of things that you wanted in your life, I think they will appreciate that. So usually leaders or your bosses are understanding if we have that kind of a two fro understanding.
Absolutely. And to add to what Mrinal has said, Prasanna, it's important to have a social agreement with your boss.
That's right.
Have a one-on-one conversation and say, hey, I need to balance this out. How do you think I can do it? What are
Correct.
your ideas? You start with a question without being rude, without being adamant or inflexible, as you have put it, and say, hey, what do you think I should do? Go with a
Indeed.
humble inquiry method. I'm sure your boss would have a lot of ideas to share, and you pick one which works for you, and then say, hey, this works for me, I think I will try it out for a few days. Use a trial and error approach, where you are open, your boss is open, your team is open, and have some kind of a fun potluck session where you all talk about something other than work. Ensure that it's a free floor for people to talk and share and uh, be for each other. Empathy could be practiced at a max here, right? And at this opportunity, I would like to share a research paper which I came across. I found it very useful and relevant for our discussion. Solution focused cognitive behavioral coaching for sustainable high performance and circumventing stress, fatigue, and burnout by Anthony Grant. He is no more now. We lost him a couple of years back, but he has done tremendous amount of contribution to the literature of leadership coaching and employee well-being, employee experience, and so on. And he talks about a very simple framework. Employers in the past used to choose either performance or employee well-being. Now is a time where we have to tread the and part of it. You can't let go of one and take the other. It is a quadrant of flourishing that you see on the screen, where sustainable high performance can happen only when well-being of employees is high, and performance, the conditions to create that performance, is also high. Right, high performance can be created in those conditions. So that's what I think is a need of the hour right now. having those conversations with your team, with your boss, with your customers, ensuring that you have boundaries, you have the balance, you are talking about making these breakthroughs personally as well as with the team and as an organization. That's going to be important narrative going forward. And our conversation does not end here today. We are going to come back. Mrinal, is that a promise that we can give right now? There's so
Yeah,
much to talk
sure.
about it in this topic, right?
Sure, definitely would love to, Bhaskar. Thank you for that opportunity given, and thank you for all the audience who's been here. And no apologies that we have stretched a little beyond, because some always an engrossing conversation is always makes us not look at the watch so much.
We were in a
So
flow. We were in a zone.
that's true. That's true. Thank you, Bhaskar.
And
You
a
always
lot
make
of
it happen.
remarks, kind remarks from people. Yes, Priya says that, yeah, these two concepts put together can create immense value. Absolutely right. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Priya.
you, everyone, for staying with us. I hope it was useful for you. If you are on YouTube, please do subscribe for more such conversations. You will get an alert as we go forward. And sincere gratitude, Mrinal, for your time, effort, and all the research that you have done for this interaction. Look forward to
Thank you
having
so
you
much.
on a different platform and
Thank you.
have a part two, perhaps, on this. Thank you.
Perhaps. Thank you so much, Bhaskar, for that opportunity. And I want to thank the audience. And it was wonderful, Bhaskar, to connect with you, and always enriching to have the conversations that we always have. Thank you so much. Take
Thank
care.
you. Stay
Thank you.
safe.
Stay safe. Bye bye.